Доброго дня, це
Good afternoon. This is Media Center Ukraine, Odesa, and our today's briefing is dedicated to war crimes of the Russian Federation, which are considered by the court of Odesa Oblast. And I would like to give floor to Serhiy Kostenko, the head of the Odesa Regional Prosecutor's Office. Thank you for the invitation. I would like to inform you about the work of the Prosecutor's Office of the Odesa Oblast. I would like to start saying that from the February of this year, the work of the prosecutor's office and law enforcement bodies in Odesa Oblast have been changed in accordance with the aggression of the Russian Federation. We had primarily to take actions to properly document the related crimes and the crimes related to violation of the norms of the international law, including war crimes and other crimes envisaged by the Rome Statute, namely genocide and the crimes against humanity. On the territory of Odesa Oblast, we have documented 70 cases of shelling of the civilian and critical infrastructure oblast starting from February 24, 55 missile attacks. In general, there have been documented at least 100 rockets hitting civilian and critical infrastructure, including the missiles that have been downed by our forces. There were 2 shellings by tactical aviation, because most strikes are with the use of aviation, but strategic. 7 missiles by ship artillery, and also there were the usage of UAVs. There have been investigated facts of the killing of 32 persons and the wounds of people, including certain children. You know, the most massive shellings. This is the shelling of the residential complex Tiras, the shelling of the settlement of Serhiyivka, and I will provide more details about these cases. Around 1,000 people witnessed damage of the fires of the houses. 34 block of flats have been completely destroyed, and 34 flats and private houses that have been damaged by explosive wave. 32 residential recreational bases have been damaged. The 19 private companies faced the destruction of their warehouses, as well as the big residential mall where there were more than 300 companies. More than 80 commercial pavilions have been destroyed on the coastline. Such objects of critical infrastructure as the international airport of Odesa, the oil and gas enterprises, the bridge over Dnistro, Liman, 7 complexes of power supply stations, the railway bridges, the Odesa port factory have been damaged. In general, following the results of the examination of the hits, more than 2,000 of debris and spare parts of the missiles have been found, including the cluster ammunition that was used on the 3rd of March in the shelling of the village of Zatoka. The investigation actions have been taken with regard to each case. And we did not face such crimes before. That's why we had to learn the tools of investigating these crimes, which is quite specific. During March, We received all guidance that we explored on the spot. That's how we learned to use these tools, not only to prove the guilt of the aggressor country, not only at local institutions, but on the international level. A lot of citizens of other regions address our office from the hostilities zones. So we take the immediate investigative actions and then send these cases or handle all of these cases to the relevant institutions and the relevant jurisdictions. The 9 criminal cases and investigations are ongoing. 8 of the traitor actions, we have sent to the court 110 criminal proceedings. I mean those cases that are related to the crimes against territorial integrity. There are 24 persons which allegedly have violated the territorial integrity of Ukraine. There are also persons that informed about the whereabouts of the armed forces of Ukraine. As for collaborators, and also the rejection of the armed aggression of Russia against Ukraine, there were 146 criminal proceedings. 77 acts have been handed to court. There were 8 decisions. In general, as for the criminal proceedings of the mentioned category, there are 90 court decisions, including the cases of violating the territorial integrity, the support of the aggressor country, and the disclosure of information about the whereabouts of the armed forces of Ukraine, and also other cases. There is a new category of crimes, including the illegal border crossings of the people of the mobilization age. So this year we have 80 cases more than the last year. People try to legally cross the state border, not to get to the armed forces of Ukraine following mobilization. There were 315 such cases this year, and 35 persons have been informed about suspicion, and there were also the participants of the organized groups that organized this type of crime. As for the modus operandi, they are quite creative. This includes the crossing of the border using river boats, up to creating different types of concealment places in cargo trucks to cross the border. The rates for illegal border crossing are quite high, from 1,000 to 10,000 USD. This is a new type of criminal activity that we've been recently facing. Before that, the different types of phenomena were more popular. This is the illegal trafficking of weapons and smuggling of drugs. We have been working to find facts of illegal use of the humanitarian aid, donations and other types of aid sent to Ukraine to protect our country from the aggressor country. We have registered 11 criminal proceedings. And we have provided the information about handing over to the court the act due to the case of a Sol NGO that try to sell items, military items that had been received within humanitarian aid. There were more than, to the amount more than 540,000 hryvnias. There were other people who sent letters on behalf of the head of military administration for people and businesses to donate money to support, allegedly support the armed forces of Ukraine. This group act not only at Odesa oblast, but in different other regions of Ukraine, including the city of Kiev. The investigation is ongoing, but we are going to hand it over to the court in the nearest future. There is another case. The members of Municipal Council of Suvorov District Administration used the municipal budget to send this amount of money for other purposes. But we learned the information about the objective value of such property, and this case is being under consideration of the court. I would also like to focus on the activities of the economic operators who have Russian or Belarus citizens among their beneficiaries. Firstly, we have focused on the enterprises with the lower taxation burden. This money could be sent abroad to be used by the aggressor country. On the 1st of August, we sent the report of suspicion to the court with regard to the citizens of the Russian Federation, Kurchenko. We have published this information on our website, informing about damaging the state budget of Ukraine to the amount of more than 3 million hryvnias in relation to illegal activities with the oil and lubricants that were allegedly delivered to Ukraine within the procedure of transit. But in fact, these items were sold at the local market, avoiding the state budget. We arrested the whole property of the persons involved in this criminal activity, and by the decision of the State Council, their assets and the property can be confiscated by the state. There was a preliminary court session, and the court proceedings are ongoing in the procedure in absentia. There is the whole range of proceedings with regard to the cases where we believe there is the fact of illegal activity by beneficiaries which are residents or citizens of the aggressor state. We have revealed different types of properties, and we have arrested the property that was handed over to the Varma agency. I think that you might be also interested in the situation with regard to the dynamics of criminal activities in the face of the fact that we have been on the war since the February of this year. First, we had expected the increased number of crimes, but due to the fact that we have taken we took the significant counter-terroristic actions, there is a decrease in criminal activities. Last year, there were 81 criminal offenses for 10,000 population. This year, the number is 69. So there is a significant decrease in this type of activity. We observe this in all categories which are not related to the war. There are decrease of the criminal cases against public order by almost 50%, and by 72% with regard to crimes related to people. There is a 30% decrease against property thefts by 42%, including the thefts in apartments these are decreases all over categories. But these are just numbers. It is very important to bring the criminal to justice. As for efficiency of our operation, it has increased, and the 80% of the crimes are successfully investigated, and we have the significant counter-terroristic activities that are quite effective, not only in the city but in the oblast. This year, we have sent reports for around 5,000 criminal proceedings to courts, and the work in other sector is ongoing, as it had in peaceful times. We have sent to court reports related to 25 organized criminal groups that were involved in thefts, the stealing of woods, frauds related to property of citizens, illegal drug trafficking, and the inappropriate use of services, the crimes related to corruption, etc. This is what we worked with before the war. This year, basing on the results of our work, we have sent 55 reports of suspicions with regard to theft of budget funds. And there were also the reports that we sent after 24th of February. This demonstrates that we didn't stop working, but we have become even more efficient. More than in 3 times, there is the increase of the total amount of the inappropriate allocated of budget fund. This is more than 1 billion hryvnias, and the biggest amount of crimes were revealed in other regions of Ukraine. There were also violations with public procurement. There were 13 reports to the amount of more than 1 billion hryvnias. It is better to prevent offenses related to the budget, not to avoid the illegal use of these funds. And that's why we sent the warnings to different institutions, and the whole number of budget appropriators cancelled their activities. We also reveal and document violations related to corruptions. 110 reports of suspicions have been sent to the court, including 2 reports with regard to the crimes as a part of organized criminal groups. As an example, we've sent to the court the report with regard to the organized group of the public officials of the budget regional administrations. The members of this group legally allocated budget funds that were aimed to large families, single parents, thus damaging the state budget significantly. We have also sent to court 859 protocols about administrative offenses related to corruptions. And the court have already considered these cases and brought to liability more than 140 persons. The environmental crimes. We also pay attention to this sector because the environment has been defined our priority since the last year by the management of our state and the General Prosecutor's Office. There are 65 reports to the amount of 609 million hryvnias this year. There were 32 reports with the positive decision. And there was a well-known case of the spillage of palm oil in the Pivdenney port. It took 2 years for the case to be considered by the court, but we managed to prove in the court that the ship owner responsible for the spoilage was guilty, and the state budget received $1 million that were really sent to the budget, and the sum was covered by bank guarantees. There are also 101 reports of suspicion with illegal deforestation, illegal fishing, the violation of water protection, the violations related to resorts, etc. I have one clarification. We had the press conference about the ecocide of dolphin. Can you provide more details about the case? Are there any forecasts? Are there any proceedings? Yes, there is a criminal case that has been being investigated with regard to the ecocide. This is Article 441 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine. The environmentalists and citizens have found the huge amount of dead dolphins on the coastline. Since the 24th of February, there is 120 registered cases. On the Black Sea coast, including 15 cases of live animals. And this witnesses about the acoustic trauma. Such facts are registered by other Black Sea countries, including Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey. When the specialists explored the bodies of the animals, they received all needed biological materials. And these materials are now being under consideration of the specialized scientific centers of Germany and Italy to identify the reason of death of the animals. But the main version is the acoustic traumas. Because of the military sonars. And this is due to the fact that we have now the vessels of military vessels of the aggressor in the Black Sea. And if we calculate the number of vessels of the Black Sea countries, then this amount is less than the number of the military ships owned by the aggressor country. We will use the results of the laboratory expertise as evidence proving that the dolphins were killed by sonars. We have done everything from our side. Now we're waiting for the results of experts. I think that our journalists and our citizens are interested in the cases related to the investigations with regard to the effect of improper readiness to the military activities. There was the information about public officer in the Mykolaiv Oblast who tried to leave the region, but he was returned back to the oblast. Are there any criminal proceedings with regard to such people in the Odesa Oblast? Yes, there are examples when within the active phase of the military aggression, because the aggression itself started long ago. We had to provide everything needed to our military and the territorial defense units. We have analyzed the measures that were taken to equip our defenders. And the case of Suvorovskaya administration is an example of our activity. There are also criminal proceedings with regard to people who pretended to be volunteers but tried to earn money within the conflict. In Odesa Oblast, we had hostilities only on the Zmyny Island. Thank God and thank our armed forces, there were no hostilities in other parts of our region. But as a law enforcement officer, I can say that starting from the first day, the whole Odessa law enforcement system was there. No one left our region. And during the first 1 or 2 weeks, we managed to change our work dramatically to face the martial law. If you have some specific people in mind, so please clarify your question. If you allow, I will do this. This is the question with regard to preparation and training of the territorial defense units. There were some questions to this. Yes, I understand what you mean. You need to understand the system of the prosecutor's office. Everything which is related to the military issues, this is not under the mandate of the regional prosecutor's office. There is a special military prosecutor's office that is responsible for such cases. I can emphasize that the information that I have provided today is related only to shelling of the civilian objects, because in our case, we're responsible for the violation of the norms of humanitarian law when civilians and civil objects have been injured or damaged. I cannot comment other cases. This is the responsibility of the other prosecutor's office. Now I would like to give floor to our journalists. ICTV TV channel. Can you tell us more about the mayor of Belgorod-Dnistrovsky? During the last press conference, you also informed us about the report of suspicion, and now you say that there is a report of suspicion. Can you provide more details about this case? Several days ago, that was not the report of suspicion, but that was an accusatory act. We believe that we have the grounded reasons for such report of suspicion and accusatory act. This is now up for court to decide if this person is guilty or not, but we issued the accusatory act for this person to be handed over to the court. I can provide more details about the case, if needed. So there was the situation when the mayor came to the session of the municipal council. and he believed that the session contradicted the interests of the community. But in fact, there was the fight provoked, and we believe that this was inappropriate behavior. That's why we issued the report. The fifth channel. Could you please comment that the last week there was the information that there were searches in your premises? Is it so? Yes, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau took the investigative measures. But I cannot provide comments about the cases which are not in our area of responsibility, meaning our prosecutor's office. And I think you should directly ask the question those persons who initiated those searches. Live news. You promised to provide more details about Serhiyivka and Tiras. Is there something new in these cases? Just not to repeat the information that I've already provided, I can say that now these proceedings, as it was 1 month ago when I gave an interview, are under expertise. After the results of this expertise, we'll be able to continue our work. I've already provided information on numerous occasions that now the expert institution experience the significant pressure because they are not used to work in such conditions. That's why they have a lot of expertise to finalize, and without their results, we cannot be as quick as possible in terms of criminal investigations. Some of the tests have been finalized and the expertise has been finalized. That's why we'll be able to continue our work in some of the cases, and after getting results, we'll be able to find people responsible for these crimes. Суспільно. Just a clarification. With regard to the head of the charity foundation, Asol, what is the article used for accusation? The new article of the Criminal Code of Ukraine. I will be more precise now. This is related to appropriation of the humanitarian aid. If I'm not mistaken, this is Article 201. So I can be mistaken, but there is now a special article for such cases. Do you mean the article of this year? Yes. ТРК Brisk Kudrashova. We know that the Moscow Patriarch Church is not banned in the Odesa oblast, but there are now reports from our citizens blaming the priests of this church that do not even alive to put a candle in support of our servicemen. So there are now reports that have been submitted to the police or the security service of Ukraine. As for the possible involvement of the priests of the Moscow Patriarch that support the aggressor country, there is the whole range of measures and proceedings. So there are no reports of suspicion. That's why I cannot comment and provide more details. We do not have information about the priests of Moscow Patriarchy. I have the question about the illegal border crossing boys, and the activist was detained last week, but the lawyers of the defendant say that there is no evidence. Is this a part of the statistics that you've mentioned? Yes, and this has happened only recently. The court will consider our version as the accusing party, but the amount of evidence gives us full ground for this accusatory act. Can you provide more details about the letters on behalf of the Odesa military administration? This case has not been handled to the court yet. That's why I believe that the information I provided is more than enough. There are four people that started from the February 2022 have been sending letters on behalf of the Odesa military administration to raise money to logically support the armed forces of Ukraine. But actually the money was sent to their personal accounts. They appropriated the fund, and we hope that this case will be handed over to the court in the nearest future, and only after that we'll be able to provide more details about this case. I have a question about the sentences to the people, the collaborators. What was the reason? Did they provide information to the enemy about missile strikes or some other cases? I can give you an example, some examples of these cases for you to better understand what I mean here.
Ну, наприклад.
For example, on the 24th of August, within the special court proceeding with regard to violation of the integrity of Ukraine, two citizens of Odesa were arrested. Since 2016, they have been activists of the anti-Maidan movement, and they moved to the Lugansk oblast for illegal activity there. They were sentenced to 10 years. One of them was sentenced to 10 years and another for 14 years of imprisonment. There is another case where citizens of Ukraine were sentenced to 15 years with the subsequent confiscation of the property, who was illegally involved with the illegal LNR and DNR. And we have a lot of cases like this. 90 cases, 90 sentences, including the residents of our oblast. One of the resident of the southern part of our region was sentenced, who was involved with the units of the aggressor country. He was taken prisoner of war and was sentenced to 15 years for his crime. You can also find this information on our website. We have a lot of such proceedings. If you are interested in some specific case, I can provide information in case if it has been already handed over to the court. I mean not those people who were involved with the armed units of the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics. I meant those people from here who were involved in providing information for guiding, for example, missile attacks. This category of proceedings is called the treason, and we have revealed around 20 cases on the territory of Odesa Oblast. These people collected different types of information with regard to the defense of our country, and they tried to provide this information to the aggressor country. After detention, we received all the evidence to prove their legal activity. We have handled these cases over to the case. The information is open, so as soon as there are some proceedings, you will be able to get this information. There was the case with the so-called professor and other persons who collected such type of information, providing it to the aggressor country. So these cases are now under consideration of the court, and the court or we can provide you more details. Are there any other questions? There are no questions, so I will continue if you allow. There is the question and we have already covered the state treason and those people involved in illegal military units, and I've had some more questions. Yes, now I remember those people who allow to cross the border people who want to avoid the service in the armed forces of Ukraine. Yes, there is the increase in the number of such cases. Are there public officials involved in these activities? Can you provide more details? Yes, there are several criminal proceedings with the involvement of the bodyguards and those people who helped to issue counterfeit documents. So these are the different type of public officers. When it comes to military activities, this is the responsibility of the military prosecutor's office.
Ми будемо закінчувати брифінг. Я дуже
Are there any other questions? If no, then thank you very much for finding time and coming to us today, telling about the the war crimes. Thank you very much. This is the last briefing for today. See you on Thursday.